Welcome to On the Spectrum podcast. My name is Nick.
I'm Steve.
And we are two human beings on the spectrum. We do not presume to be experts of anything in any way whatsoever. We are just two human beings who want to have a conversation with some other people. And you might hear some things on the podcast that you agree with, you disagree with, things that offend you, things that might not offend you. We might talk about things that are taboo, controversial, whatever. If you like it or you don't, drop us a line, give us a comment, say something to us whatsoever. We like talking to people. And today we have a special guest with us.
Yeah. So I want to welcome to the podcast. We have Nyxie Gaia. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Yay.
Should have asked you that before how to say your name.
Yeah, it's correct.
Okay.
Nyxie.
So Nyxie's going to talk to us about, I don't know, your experiences, I guess.
Being a human being who lives on a planet somewhere in a galaxy. All right.
So when I usually ask everybody this, but so when did you find out? I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When did you find out that you were on the spectrum?
So first, it was really, really obvious when I was a child. Like they were like teachers, they were like, "What is going on with these children?" And they were making me a lot of tests, and they were telling to my parents that I was having a lot of issues to communicate, to play with other kids, stuff. But because my parents, they moved me 5 times to school, a part of the stress that was for myself, I was not able to actually never get a proper diagnosis. Like I colleagues, but they never get me and do a proper diagnosis. So I was always the weirdo, I was a new person, but also a weirdo. I was actually going through a lot of bullying. It was super hard for me. Like when I was 12, I tried to commit suicide. So you can imagine, or maybe probably not. But it was really, really hard for me in childhood. The thing for me is, the moment I discovered this, actually, it was, well, first I noticed, that I was starting to make first time in my life friends, around like proper friends. I mean, around 18 years old, something like that. And I noticed that some of them, they were actually in the autistic spectrum. They were just saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember using OkCupid at the time when it worked properly. And I had a really good match with a person. And we were really, really, really similar in many things. We were saying everything, and she's diagnosed as autistic, and she was just telling me like, "Hey, you are probably autistic," And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And she was explaining to me, and I was like, "Okay, I probably should take a test about this." So I did it, and it was obviously yes, and really obvious yes. One of the things I was actually researching, it was like, what actually means to be autistic, because I was really curious, like where this is coming from, like what is really, really, really happening. And at some point, I was just trying to research about some papers, and I found 2 things that they were really, really interesting that I think you would like to check. One is that some papers speaks that some autistic people, they have a fungus in their bellies that produce psilocybin.
Okay.
And other paper says that the amount of DMT that the body of autistic people produce is higher than average, like 2 times more.
Oh.
In other words, like this is literally saying that is 2 psychedelic compounds that are quite high in autistic people. And then I noticed something, a really interesting comparison. If you go to the instructions about how to be a really good trip sitter, for mushrooms, someone is taking mushrooms, and you read what you need to do and what you can expect about this person, is almost identical about how you should take care of an autistic children and what are the characteristics.
Yeah.
So I was just like, of course, it's not like any study that says this directly, but I have this strong feeling that somehow autistic people are somehow people that are all the time on mushrooms, not stopping. Uh,
That because of kind of like some of the sensory stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
everything's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess everything's more intense.
Yeah. So basically, we're always tripping.
Yeah.
We're always tripping. Let's just call it what it is. We're always on something. We're always on some drugs that are making us see some cool ass shit. Trails. Okay. I did acid a little bit when I was a teenager. That's about as far as I know. I never did shrooms or nothing.
Well, it's quite interesting because also one characteristic that happens when autistic people they take psychedelics is that they are less they have a less effect. Why? Because we know one of the characteristics in autism is being able to have a really vivid imagination, so you can have clear images. A thing that usually happens when you take mushrooms.
Yeah.
So if you already have this characteristic, you will not have so much of that already when you're taking mushroom because you have it
because it's already there. Yeah, it's already there. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting as hell. I like that.
So did things get easier for you socially when you realized that you were autistic? Like how did things change?
Of course, for me, the big change was that I was always searching like a label, like a thing that was like, oh yes, here is my community, you know. And I was trying that with veganism, and I was like, oh, it's a vegan community, my community. I was like, nope, it's not. Okay, what about people with high IQ, you know? No, it wasn't also. What about people that is interested in manga, anime, or role games or things like that? It wasn't also. So it was like, where is this label? And then when my friend told me about autism, and I was like, okay, let's try this label. Let's try to meet other autistic people. It was so obvious that everyone I was meeting in the autistic spectrum, it was like almost like a copy of me. Not exactly. Of course, every person have different characteristics, different interests, but really similar sensibilities, you know. Really similar ways of like being able to go really far with our thoughts.
Yeah, I found that sometimes it's easier for me to get along with other people that are autistic than people who aren't. It's easier for me to have conversations. Yeah,
and I'm not discounting what you just said at all, but we've been friends for almost 7 years now, and me and you squabble like old married people.
Yeah, but
right.
I've also so one of the closest friends I had that lived with me for a while.
Yeah.
He's also on the spectrum, but he didn't know either at the time.
Oh.
So, but it's weird how I find out the people that I actually did connect with, a lot of them were more like me, and I just didn't know it at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Nyxie, about how old were you when you diagnosed or figured out or decided you were autistic? But I don't know how you figured that out. But in that way, about how old were you?
When I remember at some point, just like being curious about this, asking my mom to give me all the papers that they give it to her about the diagnosis that they give it to me. They were not putting any label. They were describing what was going on. And this was the labels of not the label. Sorry, this was the description. That was exactly as how an autistic children it is. And this was around 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, between that ages. And then later when I was meeting my friend, I was around 22 years old.
Okay.
I was having this test, and then I was like, okay, yes, I am autistic. It's obviously, and then I was checking my past, and I was like, yes. And, you know, also noticing how other things, like this is also really really funny thing I noticed. I don't know if you ever try the laughing gas.
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
I've never been on laughing gas.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you mix laughing gas with mushrooms, what happens is that usually you have a really psychedelic experience.
Oh, okay.
When I take laughing gas, it's like what experience I describe is like mixing with mushrooms, but I'm not taking mushrooms.
Okay.
So
I
I
have a
think,
feeling that this is going to be a centralized theme of this conversation.
Well, you are talking to a shaman,
That is a true statement.
right?
yeah, and
We,
psychedelics are quite present in my life.
yeah, that's a big deal for you. Yeah, I get it.
So
And there's no harm in that. It was just an observation.
I think that there's probably a lot of benefits to psychedelics that we don't necessarily explore.
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of research
'Cause they're
right now
taboo.
coming out about DMT and the benefits of that with PTSD. There's a lot of research coming out about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
For
So
me, the most
I just
amazing. Yeah. Yes.
no. Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh well, I was going to say that for me, between all psychedelics that I ever try and I did, the most profound and liberating experience I ever had was with 5-male with Bufo.
With what?
With Bufo, it's called also 5-male DMT. It's not DMT. It says 5-male DMT, the molecule, but 5-male
Yeah.
DMT is not the same than DMT. It's a different
I've
molecule.
never heard of that.
Okay. No, me neither.
It's also called the toad, and it's also called Bufo. It's
Okay.
really special because what it does, instead of you having any type of vision, what it does is to increase the awareness that you have with your body.
Oh, okay.
And it
Kind of letting you
goes
connect
really,
with
really
the way you
far.
feel a little bit better.
Yeah, but it's okay. So this is the thing. At the time, one of the things that helped me a lot, it was to go through multiple retreats of vipassana meditation. You know, you are sitting there 10 days, around 10 hours per day of meditation. It's quite intense. And what you are doing there is that you are using your awareness and you are scanning your body part by part.
Mm.
And when you're doing this, you realize about two interesting things. First is that you can feel your body quite deeply, and as you are doing it, you increase your awareness of your body. Okay. And the second is that every part inside your body have different sensations that they are changing as you are observing them. And this is an interesting thing that if you are usually heavy in a place in your body and you are putting their awareness more and more and more, what is happening is that this part is dissolving, and it's dissolving more and more and more. And if you do that for enough time, this block, whatever is there, it goes away.
Oh.
So you can use meditation for healing. But
Right.
of course, and this is one of the things that some people that are quite experienced in meditation, they say is like, it doesn't matter, like I can take lifetimes, I can take multiple lives, if you believe in this, to actually being able to heal myself fully by doing this. So it's a really slow process. But this is the trick that I found, is that this component that actually is the same component you use and your brain use for control the awareness you have with your body. What it does is to increase literally the awareness you have with your body without doing any type of meditation. So what happens is that increase a lot the awareness of your body, and you start to feel everything all at once. And of course, this can be really hard for some people, that they are not allowing themselves to connect with their bodies because they have maybe some trauma and all that things. Right. Usually when someone is doing this, what happens is that your body starts to move by itself. And you can maybe start to scream, or you can start to cry a lot, or to laugh a lot, to express any type of emotions. When I was using it at the time for myself, it was the most healing experience I had. And at some point, I was looking to work with other people doing this. But, it was not ideal because it's so intense that not everyone can hold this. So I was not liking the results I was having. And I was asking myself how I can do it in a way that actually people can enjoy the experience, that actually they can totally surrender to it. And there is where I found that the combination with MDMA, it was amazing. For me, discovering that I was able to mix MDMA with 5-male, with Bufo, it was the key, because it's like doing surgery before we were having anesthesia, and then
Yep.
suddenly discovering that it's anesthesia for the ego, for the mind. So the person can relax, can be in this bliss of love, acceptance, and then from there, being able to go to the places where the person is stuck, where the person is not able to connect with their body, and then just unlock that. And that is for me like doing literally like a surgery, in an emotional body. And when you do that with someone, it changes completely the way that the person feels in a permanent way. And you are not anymore the same being, in the sense that you don't have anymore the blocks that you were having, the anxiety, especially I would say the things that are making you incapable of just being yourself, the things that are making you to be limited. Maybe you want to, like, I'm going to give you a sample. I was really, really afraid at the time of being able to sing a cappella, doing improvisation music in front of a public. That was like really terrifying me, because even when I was putting myself and trying it, okay, all my body was like shaking on fear, And after I did this just one time, okay, it went away and never come back again. And now I can just go in front of a public, doesn't matter the size of the public, and I can just sing improvisation, like doing improvisation
awesome.
music just by myself.
It's wonderful.
It's so much
so do you help other people, like in Iceland, as a practicing shaman? So this is something you do. You help people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me it was really interesting, like how I ended doing this, because I used to work as a team manager. Like I was having at the time when I was living in Spain, 2 startups. One was about pedagogy that I started when I was around 16 years old. And then I was making a crowdfunding campaign when I was around 18 years old. And I did a TEDx talk around this age also about it. And then it was not really successful. Not in the sense that I was not getting the attention of people, but not successful in the sense of what impact I was looking to have. Yes, because I was looking for having a really big impact. And what I noticed is that most of people, they were not caring about what I was saying. Instead, they were using me to make ads of their companies or other things around that. So that was a little bit sad. So I was like, okay, I need to do something else. And at some point, I raised a lot of money. I make like a startup about artificial intelligence that it was for trying to find your tribe, your place, the people that you are looking really for to connect. And I was able to raise €500,000 without users at the time.
Nice.
But that was not making me happy at all.
Right.
Because I was spending a lot of time with the computer. And what I wanted truly was to connect with people, was to actually just feel that I was having this sense of belonging. I was making a startup with that purpose, but but that was not what I wanted to do. That is, the result was what I was looking for, but no making the startup.
So you wanted to connect with people, but did you find that your autism gets in the way at all, or does it provide any sort of barriers for you?
I mean, honestly, I want to say this. I think that the reason that the autism, we can say, goes in the way of many autistic people is not because the autism is itself. I think that autistic people are profoundly gifted because they are profoundly aware of their environment. They are really sensible. The problem is precisely because we are so sensible. And we have capacity to process so much information, because at the end, what happens when you increase your awareness is that you perceive more information in the same amount of time, right? So what happens if you take someone on mushrooms to a car trip of maybe 3 hours or 2 hours? It's actually really heavy and it doesn't feel good at all, And it's going to be the same if you take that person on mushrooms every day to a school. Or you take that person on mushrooms to be in a party, it's really overwhelming. And this is what happens with autistic people. They are constantly being traumatized slowly, by the society we have, because it doesn't, we don't have a space truly for being or senses calm, for feeling really at home. So if we don't have that, then what is going to happen is that our body is going to accumulate a lot of trauma, and it's going to have all these restrictions that with any type of interaction we can have with other people is going to limit us. So what I noticed, and this is honestly what is my experience with myself, is that I went from almost not being able to speak with people. When I was a child, I was having so much issues. I was hyper aware of my walking, and I was not even able to walk properly, to be in a place where I am in a lot more flow than almost any neurotypical persons, and having a lot more capacity to communicate than most of people I know. And that completely saved my life. But that is because I heal myself deeply. And I also want to send this message, like, it's possible to heal yourself. I'm not saying that autism is a problem. What I'm saying is the trauma you get by being so sensible.
Right. You're saying all the extra stuff from the environment we're around, heal yourself from that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good mission. Definitely a good idea. Like, it also sounds like it's a rather tough one too, because you got to inspire people and help people walk that path. And sometimes it takes a while to talk people into walking a path of trying to heal themselves.
I've actually never done any psychedelics because I've always been kind of afraid to try them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as an adult, I will not advocate you do them at all.
I've just I have issues like about control and
yeah, you do.
I have issues with control. So like certain types of mind altering substances, I'm afraid of losing control.
I mean,
of
Nyxie
myself.
would know better than me, but the camera didn't freeze. Okay, Nyxie would know better than I would, but like, you don't really lose control.
No.
It's more just things get real heightened. At least my experience, limited that I have. It's just I experienced everything more.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean. Like
even with
colors got brighter, the wind felt colder. Like
it's like well, the few things that I've tried, like marijuana has a tendency to make me feel more anxious.
Yeah, but it's really common to confuse marijuana with psychedelics. There is not a psychedelic at all. I will say that actually when you take psychedelics, it's not that you lose control, you gain more control. Okay?
Yeah. You're far more aware.
One thing that contrasts psychedelics, like if you take mushrooms and you take alcohol, it contrasts each other because alcohol decreases your awareness and mushrooms increase your awareness. So
and see, I like alcohol because I like to
numb out the world. Yeah.
I like to. So
that's
when
why a lot of people like alcohol.
When I get, if I'm in an environment that makes me feel uncomfortable socially, like I get social anxiety when we're around large groups of people. So, if I have some alcohol, it kind of makes me numb to some of the anxiety, the sensory stuff. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that have a lot of sense. Like, honestly, for me, the way that psychedelics had helped me is not using them in social context. That, of course, at some point I tried that. Not always, it wasn't always nice to do it.
Right.
But for me, what actually helped me is that when you take psychedelics, what happens is that you have even more creativity. You have more capacity to understand your body, to connect with your body. You have more capacity to feel your environment. And then when you are with all these capacities increase, what happens is that you can start really easily to see your loops, your patterns, the things that usually you repeat, the things that usually you say to yourself, the behavior. And as you do that, depending on the amount you take, if you take microdose, if you're just using a really small amount, what happens is that you can navigate your day-to-day life, being a little bit extra aware, and then you can actually take better decisions and you feel a lot better because also increase your capacity to communicate just because your creativity is more active. You have more capacity. It's like suddenly you have extra space in your head.
So what I understand of psychedelics is that typically your brain filters out information. So we receive lots of data from our senses, our hearing, our eyes, our nose, a sense of touch, everything. We're receiving all this information. Your brain filters a lot of it out and tries to pick out things that are important. But when you're on psychedelics, it's almost like your brain doesn't filter it as much. You're kind of getting more information that that's readily available to you instead of your brain filtering it out as
Yes,
much.
but no. Like there is a way to describe it, but actually it's more like in Vipassana. And I'm going to explain this. So when you start to increase the awareness that you have of your body and your environment through meditation, what happens is not that you just open your filters and you receive more information. It's not just that, because just that it will be just overwhelming. But actually, what happens is that your capacity to accept the things as they are, to feel in peace with whatever is happening around you, increase. And this is what happens when you take psychedelics. It's not only your perception what increase, but also the inner peace you have. But I'm going to also be really clear about this because, of course, probably some people also that will hear us, they will say, well, but what about bad trips? Or what about moments where I feel actually a lot more stressed because I'm in psychedelics? Yeah, this is because you are extra sensible. And psychedelics, when you are there, especially with mushrooms, they are guiding you. They are telling you what is the direction to take, what is the place to move. And you can feel it inside your body. You can feel if it feels good or not what you're doing. And usually, this is not something you can do so easily when you are not in that state of consciousness. But when you are on psychedelics, it's like, oh, here doesn't feel right. I need to do this instead of being obsessed with this other thing. Or I need to maybe just go outside. And usually maybe I don't allow myself to go outside, but now I'm more aware of how I feel inside. And then I notice that I can treat myself better. So this is the key. Psychedelics makes you to feel more aware of yourself, so you know how to treat yourself better, which makes you to feel better, which actually also can increase your happiness in your life potentially, because it's teaching you how to navigate your life day to day, how to do the things day to day,
So I have a question that I just thought of, and it's related to it's indirectly related to what you're talking about. But so I don't know if people are listening, if they heard the part before, because we talked a little bit before we started recording, but you're in Iceland.
Yeah.
Is it more socially acceptable for psychedelics over there?
Yeah. For Icelanders told me
compared to here.
Yes, but I it's an statistic here, okay, that people popularly says that is that Iceland is the country, and I know that marijuana is not a psychedelic, but they say Iceland is the country that consumes more marijuana per person in the world.
Wow.
And I will say that probably is true.
Okay. That's going to be the next t-shirt that I make. That's the next t-shirt. Okay. Icelandics smoke more pot. Like that's the shirt I'm going to buy right there.
Hey, I knew there's a reason I wanted to go to Iceland.
Yeah, there's a reason why you wanted to go to Iceland.
I think it's pretty. That's the reason why I wanted to go. It looks like a beautiful country.
It's really pretty, Iceland.
And I wanted to check out the hot springs and stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Sure.
But precisely,
hey, take a photo for me. Yep. Send it back to me. Yeah,
I'd be willing to go on. It's not that long of a flight from where we are. We're near Boston, so that's
in Boston.
What, like yeah,
we're just outside of Boston.
Flight to Iceland.
What? Yeah, it's not that far. It's like 4 hours.
You have a direct flight to Iceland from Boston.
Oh, really?
Yeah. From Boston. Yeah. That's why I thought about going. It's not a far flight.
Do I need a passport?
I have a passport.
Oh, so you're saying no then?
I think you probably need a passport to go to Iceland.
Moment.
Summer is the best, you say.
I don't know if I could deal with the constant daylight, though.
See, I could do that. I think I could deal with it. I mean, I've never had to, but I think I could deal with that.
No,
I don't think I could deal with winter. Because does that mean you have constant darkness?
Constant dark, yes, snow,
yeah,
ice.
I don't think I could deal with that. Although you said it's safer there, so maybe I could deal with it.
I think it's interesting that Iceland, right? They came about from like the Vikings and stuff who came over to Iceland.
Sure.
And the Vikings in the Viking culture, they had a tradition of doing psychedelics.
Okay.
Right. I mean, they did like mushrooms and stuff like that.
Right.
Here, mushrooms grows everywhere, like psychedelic mushrooms. Yeah. One time I was just going out of a bus stop and I was just finding mushrooms next to me. Psychedelic mushrooms that I just picked.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Have you heard of a
Wow, it's an entire island of people tripping.
Have you heard of a Viking berserker?
Yes.
They take mushrooms and mead and get high and go into battle.
Oh. Well, I didn't know that's why.
Yeah, but usually that is with the Amanita. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they thought it would make them less afraid. It would make them fearless in battle while they're in.
Well, that's probably the same rationale of why the Russian government used to give amphetamines to people, to their troops, keep them up longer and like not have fear or nothing. Anyway,
yeah,
government experimentation. Let's not talk about it anymore.
I didn't know that you were in Iceland, and I find Iceland really interesting. So, although I've heard Icelandic is the hardest language to learn in the world.
Well, I have been here already for years, and I don't know how to speak Icelandic, so I guess it is.
I've heard it's a very difficult language to learn.
It is, but I don't think it's because the language. I think it's because it's hard that Icelanders they're going to speak to you in Icelandic.
Yeah,
that is a problem.
Oh, okay.
So is your first language is Spanish?
Yes, my first language is Spanish.
And you speak English, but you don't speak Icelandic. Do most Icelandic people speak English?
Yes. Yeah. Like even sometimes between themselves.
Oh, okay. So it's not uncommon to see like people speaking English to each other just because.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. How many other languages do you speak?
Spanish, English, and I know a little bit of Finnish and French. And I also know a little bit of Portuguese after 4 months in Brazil, yes.
Oh, okay.
But it's mainly Spanish and English that are my main.
We're in Little Portugal right now.
Yes.
It's a joke. We're in a part of Massachusetts that is has a lot of Portuguese population.
Well, actually, we have a larger Portuguese population in this area of Massachusetts than in Portugal.
Oh, nice. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
I'm 25% Portuguese. There we go.
And I'm thankfully 0% Portuguese. Yeah. No, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. I'm not against any group of people on the planet.
He's lying. He's against them all.
Yeah, I'm against all of them. Yeah. I equal opportunity don't like humans.
Especially Icelandic shamans.
Oh, don't say that. Oh, good God, sir. So you've been a lot of places in the world.
Yes.
What are your top three? What are your top three favorite places to go to that you've been to stay in? I don't know. Favorite three places to trip in? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, I think it's really clear. The Amazon in Brazil, inside the jungle. There, that is amazing. I will say that in Brazil in general, because also it's a really special place that is called Alto Paraíso de Goiás. It's a really weird village where people believes in aliens and everything is decorated with aliens there. It's quite a special place. And also they do a lot of ayahuasca and other plant medicines there.
Have you tried ayahuasca?
Yes, a lot. I'm actually.
Did you have a good experience with it?
Yes. Ayahuasca, even when a lot of people think that is really strong, is actually quite soft. What I mean with this is you can imagine that because you take ayahuasca and you vomit is strong, okay? But you are choosing the amount that you're taking. So you can take one glass, a little glass, you can feel it and you can continue if you want from there or not. It's not like other psychedelics that you take a certain amount and you go into a full trip, if you take a big amount of mushrooms. But with ayahuasca, you're choosing actually how far you want to go. So it's up to you. In that sense, it's really gentle. And
nice.
The way that ayahuasca presents to you also is really gentle, because it's this usually ayahuasca, not to everyone, okay, but usually it presents as a voice, like really lovely voice that is just giving you love in one way or another, just telling you how much it loves you in so many senses, and just pointing to you what to heal, and through that and through giving love to the parts that usually you are not allowing yourself to love, you vomit that, and then you feel how that is a release. The vomit itself is a release. I'm actually organizing probably someone.
Huh? Say it again.
I think it's a little bit of noise right now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you hear me properly. You don't hear noise?
No.
You said you were organizing something. I think you didn't understand.
I didn't hear what that was, that you were organizing.
Yeah, well, it's fine. Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah. So for me has been not life-changing, because what for me was life-changing was DMT. That is the main component of ayahuasca. It was smoking it. But at the same time, I can say ayahuasca has been life-changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that it was through ayahuasca that my life shifted, but through the component of ayahuasca. So it's kind of the same in the way, but it's not, Like, the difference of DMT and DMT is actually really special is that when you take DMT, if you take enough and you take with a purpose, because DMT is also really particular. You can take a really big amount and nothing at all happen to you. But if you really take it with a lot of purpose, what can happen is that the eye of your imagination, it gets really, really, really bright, really big. And at some point it gets so big that it takes you, and then suddenly you're in a different reality, and you're in place, and everything feels completely as real as here. And then you maybe are meeting some types of creatures there, or maybe not. But it's pretty interesting, like the deep awareness that you can get from there about who you are, what is reality, and what are you doing here? What is your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's I don't know, it's just something weird. Like, I think a scientist would say that it's just coincidence that all of these different plants and fungi and stuff are able to interact with us biologically in a way that produces these effects, or that, like the DMT thing is something that, some of these are chemicals that naturally exist in our bodies. But just like, it's kind of interesting. Like, what are your thoughts about like all these different plants and fungi and things that just happen to interact with us in this way?
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting question. Like, I really believe that we are not separate. Like, this is actually one of the major discoveries I did in my life, and it's something I'm slowly putting out there, but I can give you this. Okay, so
yeah,
let me explain. I want to introduce you this in this way. What do you think are the main problems that the planet have this moment? What are the major issues that we can say?
Humans live on it.
Why?
Oh, because we're just wonderfully self-destructive.
Okay,
and we're killing the planet.
We're killing the planet, but what does it mean that?
Oh, what does it mean that we're killing the planet?
Yes.
Oh, well, we mine all the natural resources out of it. We destroy it for our own profit, and we're poisoning the crap out of it.
So would you say that?
I was mostly just making jokes to begin with, but we're going to keep going that way.
Okay. So, right. Or we can say that we are not having a lot of empathy, right, for the rest of the planet.
Right.
No?
Right.
And
because
that
we're more important than...
It's a true statement. I mean, it's a true statement.
We're more important than the other living things on the planet, or at least it's how we treat it, or how we...
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the same time that this is happening, we can say enough from there is one of the problems we can describe it that then from here is climate change, right? Somehow,
yeah.
and also all the pollution, all the destruction of so much environments, of so many species, so many living beings, Okay, what else? What other problems we have as humanity in general?
I think a lack of empathy for each other, lack of understanding for other people, other groups of people. I mean, being autistic, it's hard to be understood by other groups of people at times.
True.
So it's like kind of like a lot of social injustice, right? From there
Oh yeah.
that happens, right?
Yeah, a lot of people treating other people like crap.
Yeah, and also like it's like we precisely because these we have risk of even war between countries, right?
Oh yeah.
So we can say somehow that the war that can happen, or the social injustice, or the climate change that is happening on all this pollution, is because we have a big lack of empathy, right?
Yeah.
And somehow, if we will be able to develop this empathy, everything will be really different, right? If we will have enough empathy for the planet itself, we will not treat each other this way, right?
Right.
But how we can do that?
How can we do it? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, because like some people are almost unwilling to have empathy for somebody else because they're unwilling to learn anything different than what they already believe.
It also depends on if you think short term, if you think long term. A lot of people only think about short term versus long term. So if you're talking about long term, like what's good for us long term is not always what's good for you short term. And if you're only thinking in the short term, you're going to make bad decisions that are going to hurt you long term. Not necessarily, but a lot of times.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. So I noticed one thing. It's like if you observe what is the organism in Earth that have the biggest amount of empathy, you will notice that is the cells of a body. So the cells of your body, they have so much empathy to each other that they behave as one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can see what you're saying with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, because there are multiple cells, but they are behaving as one.
Right.
But is a lot of cells, and they treat each other in a way where they are trying that everyone have all the resources that they need, and they are sharing everything and just feeling together as one, right? So what is really interesting is that is actually quite a different type of identity. Like the cells, for achieving that, they need to identify themselves with the whole body.
Right.
Because if they don't do that,
as being a part of. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the thing. Like I was like, okay, so for that, if we translate that to humans, that means that maybe we need to identify ourselves with the planet, right?
Right.
If we will be able to identify with the planet, and we will say like, okay, my identity is Gaia, then maybe we can have enough empathy, right? But how we can do that in a massive way, how we can actually achieve that in a global way. So
spike the water with DMT.
No, I actually discovered.
Yeah.
I discovered a way how we can do it.
Okay. How's that?
Okay, prepare for blowing your mind with this. Okay. I was to also want to announce this, that I was able to put this first time in words when I was mixing ayahuasca with mushrooms and DMT together.
Okay.
So I want to just honor that. So this is what I found. If you look to the cells, okay, you just see the cells at the beginning before they become a body. They're interacting with each other's, right? So they are like right now, like us, we are talking, right? So the cells also, they can interact with each other's in different ways, of course, with chemicals, all that stuff, touching each other's maybe. But at some point they become colonies. And how they do that process? To become colonies and start to be specialized and organized, what the cells does is to put information out of their bodies that is permanent. I mean permanent, that can survive. This information can survive by itself, even if the cell dies. Yes?
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm with you so far.
The cell puts information out of the bodies, and this information can continue, and the cell can die. And this information is maybe like a molecule, we can call it, or hormones, right? And then this information can make the rest of the colony the rest of the organization to start to specialize. So some cells, they can just start to defend the colony because other cells are actually producing food. They are taking the food and they are just working with the food that they have, right? And others maybe are starting to specialize in how they can transport better the information, right? So maybe they can actually increase the channels where this information can flow, right?
Right.
So this is also really similar, if you look at this, the pattern, to what happened with some animals. One of the animals that we can check, for example, are the ants. You know ants? So the ants itself, like they have this organization as a colony. And they achieve that because they're putting information out of their bodies in a form of pheromones. So they put information out of their bodies, and then they can create a colony. They can specialize some of them in taking food, others in defend the colony. You can check actually that our ants, for example, in the Amazon, that they are taking leaves, and they are taking these leaves and giving these leaves to a fungus that is in the colony. So they are literally doing a type of agriculture, with the fungus. And are other ants that they go to trees and they are farming these little animals that sucks the blood of the tree. They are not killing the animals. They are just protecting them, and they are taking the liquid that is going out of their butts that is sweet. So that animal transform this salvia, this blood of the tree that they cannot eat, into something that the ants can eat. So they are literally having this farming, And also are some ants that they actually attack other colonies and they make slaves. And this is really, really similar to what happened with some hominids, with some monkeys at the time,
Yeah.
They literally learn how to put information out of their bodies, right? And this information, we can say, was putting in rocks or in papier, a type of paper, something, different types of things. And by doing that, they were able to organize themselves as a colony, as a big group amount of people that they start to specialize. So some of them, they are also defending, they're also making slaves, they're also learning how to farm, they're also learning how to take some plants and, grow things, with it. They are doing also agriculture. They discover also agriculture, right? And as the cells, they are trying also to make the connection between them farther and farther. So we, as humans, at some point develop capacity to use pigeons, to use boats, to use horses, right? So that communicates better between all the colony. But this is the thing. How the cells, as a colony, goes from a colony to a pluricellular organism, to behave as an organism made of cells. The way that this happens is by some cells, they start to specialize in communicating better. And one of them, they manage to find out that they can make their bodies longer, and they take the message from one place, they make the message through their bodies with electricity and put it in the other place. These are the first neurons.
Yeah.
One place to another place connected. The same that happened when Europe and the States connected through using the telegraph, instant connection with electricity. And that changed everything because suddenly we have instant connection between two places and we can start to behave more as one. This is exactly what happened with the cells. And at some point, these cells started to to find that they were able to not only put one place to another, but one place to many places. So one connection to many connections, right? And then they can deliver the information to many others, which is the same thing that happens with humans when we develop radio and TV, okay?
Yeah.
So we can say that a president or a big company, they are like the main cell, right? And then it's spreading this information to everyone around really fast and being able to have a really big impact and coordinate and have more specialized people in things, right? This is the beginning of what our civilization as we know now, like really deeply, right? And what is the next step of the cells? So the cells, what they do is that instead of one to many, they do many to many. And when they achieve that, they start to behave more and more as just one, right? That is the same thing that happens with us with internet. We can connect one point to another. Doesn't matter which
Yep.
one it is. Many to many instantly. This is the next thing. Okay. So as they are connecting these neurons ones to another's, is information flowing more and more in this net. And this network at some point starts to have awareness. It starts to have conscience by itself, which is the same thing that is happening with ChatGPT, with artificial intelligence. In other words, we're going to born as a planet. Really soon, we're going to born. Like all the planets, they're going to have the same consciousness.
Right.
And we're going to born as a different creature that is made of pluricellular organisms. And this is pretty big, because if you understand this, if you understand that the planet itself is an embryo, okay,
Okay.
I'm going to born, then you can also understand that everything that we think that is artificial is actually natural. That everything that has been happening, all this same that we have, all this pollution, is the same process that you can see when an egg, okay, is the baby in the egg is taking more space, is taking more resources, and is feeling that it's taking all the resources, right? Is feeling that it's not going to have escape until the baby realizes that it's only one, and then it borns. It just goes out and borns.
Right. Okay.
So-
no, I get what you're saying.
If we understand this, then we can understand two things really important. First is that the mission of everyone right now, understanding that we are pregnant of Gaia in this moment, that we're going to born as Gaia, okay, is to heal ourselves as much as possible. Deeply. In what way I can heal myself so we can born healthier. This is the main thing, okay? And the second is, if we understand that we are a fucking planet that is going to born, okay, but not as something that is artificial, but understanding that everything that we thought that is artificial is actually natural process that is happening in the cells and is happening in the ants. That is not that we are special. We are not a special creature, different from other animals. We are following the same process. This is a loop. And if we understand this, this is the frame for being able to resolve all the problems that we had, all the wars, all the all the pollution that we are making, all the social injustice. If we truly understand that we are Gaia about to born, that means that we should start to behave as what we are, you know.
Yeah.
And that changes everything if we truly understand this. And this is the message I'm about to put out. You are the first ones, by the way.
Nice. I like being first.
I'm recording this with you.
That's awesome.
I'm honored that you felt comfortable enough sharing it with us.
Very much so. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's a very interesting concept. I very much like it. It's very interesting.
So where do you see AI in, you mentioned AI towards the end. Where do you see AI as its place in kind of what you're saying? Artificial intelligence.
So this is the thing. We name as artificial intelligence, but actually I will call it more as terra organism consciousness.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, like I'm not saying like, oh, is the only one. No, but you know, like what we call today artificial intelligence, probably at some point it will be able to decipher, for example, the network that fungi have. That actually some scientific people are saying like, oh, these actually have a really complex language and they are talking to each other. So at some point, maybe we connect our internet to the internet of the fungus, you know.
Like the mycelium?
Yes. So artificial intelligence, we call it that way, but it's not artificial. It's
you know, it's kind of...
Yes.
Yeah.
What's kind of weird, it just occurred to me, is that the artificial, like ChatGPT is a large language model, right? And it's programmed based off of languages, mostly English right now, but based off of language. In a way, Chat GPT and AI models like it kind of represent a physical version of the collective unconscious, because it's all of the information it has is based on ideas and concepts and words from us.
Right. All added together into one singular spot.
Yeah. I don't know. A weird thought I had.
It's a good thought.
Yeah. And it's pretty
Good way
much
to think
how
about
our
something.
brain works.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's the same,
Yeah.
but it's quite like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of how our brain works. We take in a crap ton of information and we add it all up together.
Right. I was thinking of like the concept of the collective unconscious, but like
No, I gotcha.
it's a digital version of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why
Although you segregated it from the rest of the world, but it's still in reality. So yeah, it's still part of that,
right.
Yeah.
relatively speaking.
Well, the collective unconscious is more of a
Yeah, that's an idea.
metaphysical idea versus I'm saying
that's an idea somebody else has.
Yeah.
I know very little about it.
But
Just
Yeah,
saying.
I agree. But I just want to point out one thing. You say that it's a
Yes.
digital version, right? But just look at this. Okay, usually when you don't have any more battery or someone is calling you, you're saying, oh, someone is calling me, right? You don't say, oh, my phone is saying that someone is calling to me, right?
Right.
Or my phone is out of battery. You can say that, but usually it's like I'm out of battery. So
Yes.
in terms of identity, you are actually identify yourself with your phone.
Yep.
is that why people are starting to call human beings cyborgs?
Yeah.
Because we're attached to technology all the time. We're attached to computers and phones. So it's like the technology and the person are merging into what is essentially like a cyborg.
What is
I'm hoping
technology?
to get
Because
robot
technology,
hands.
yes, but technology is not just electricity. Like when we were just making stones that we can
Yep.
actually use for cutting, that is technology. Like that
Yes,
is the
it is.
key thing that humans have. That is precisely to know how to modify their environment to use it for their benefit. Really similar to ants. Really similar to also when the cells are putting out information of their bodies, is because they have capacity to interact that way with the environment. And the thing is that you need first to have that capacity of changing your environment to make your environment part of you, just part of you as you are. You just put information out of you. Now you are using information that is out of you as it's part of you, and then at some point it becomes you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. No, very valid. I gotcha. Sorry, there's a lot of information there. Like there's a lot. I gotcha. Like you had to go on a whole little journey to figure out a bunch of this stuff. I'm hearing it for the first time.
We were out late last night, and so our brains are not functioning at 100%
All
right now.
right, that is a true statement that I'm at like
We did
a
karaoke.
60% capacity right now.
We were singing last night.
Yeah, I had a few too many beverages.
So
Okay.
we are. You're challenging us to think.
No, she's challenging you to think, sir. I'm sitting here going, I'm going to process that later. I'm putting that in a little storage house in the middle of my brain. I'm going to let my brain figure it out later. No, it does sound like a very cool thing. I will say one thing about it, too. I think you're right, though. If people kind of knew that concept and looked at us as an existence as a whole of the planet, I think that would eliminate a whole lot of the social issues, because then we would no longer identify what the few things that make us different, but more of that we're the same. We're all part of this other thing instead of looking at ourselves as this group, this group, this group. No, we're all part of. Yeah. I definitely think it would eliminate a lot of social issues.
Yeah.
See, I was listening somewhat.
So we're approaching the hour mark now.
Okay.
Is there anything that you wanted to share with us that you haven't shared yet?
Yeah, anything like super
Well,
important that
a
you want
lot.
to tell anybody who listens to our stuff.
Not saying we need to end recording now, but I'm just, we blocked you off for an hour. I want to respect your time.
Yeah,
If you want to
of
keep
course,
talking,
of
that's fine.
Well, I guess it's mainly two things. One is that I just want to say to people, like, the hardest thing usually is to confront our fears. Like the fears that are stopping us from healing or from going beyond, from exploring ourselves. But that has been always the main issue. That is actually the main problem you can find always. Like any type of misunderstanding of war or anything that happens, usually it comes from fear of being able to communicate, properly what is going on, or to speak. And what I propose to everyone is to use their fears as a guide to walk. So instead of you run away from your fears, and what that is going to make is that the fear is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay,
That's right.
What I really believe we need to do is to do the opposite, is to just look to the fear that we have and walk in that direction, because that is the only way that we actually can start to move in the way we want to, the things that we want to do in our lives. Usually, most of people are not capable of just do what they feel in their hearts that they want to do truly with their lives, because they are afraid.
Right.
And it has been fear the main way to actually, we can say, groups of people with power to control other groups of people, right? But it's time to look to the fear, to what it is. It's an amazing teacher if you are using it to walk towards it, and just replace it with love. And what I'm trying to say with this is here maybe I need to go a little bit farther, but let me just connect one moment to my heart and just speak from there. One of the things that I had understood that really, really opened my eyes is that everyone and every part of yourself is in profound love, looking for happiness and joy. And I'm going to really, really easily demonstrate this. If you look to a person, for example, let's say a person wants to harm another. And let's say that person is going to harm another person because wants revenge. What is going to get that person if gets the revenge? He's going to get maybe some type of happiness, right? Because he feels now like is done, right? This is good, okay. And what about other person is trying to harm another because maybe he wants money? He's going to probably feel that he's getting somehow power, right? And with that power, what is going to get? Probably is going to get some type of safety. And with that safety, what is going to get? Well, probably is going to feel happier, right? So always the intention behind, if you search and you find what is the goal of the goal of the goal, is always joy, happiness, and love. The behavior is the problem.
Right.
The
how we're
behavior
getting
is
it.
But it's about, if you look at it, then you can understand that everything and everyone, every part of you is always in love with you.
Absolutely.
Including
I
your
like
fears.
that statement. Yeah, I like that statement. Every part of you is in love with you. All right.
So I think that I still need to go to Iceland. So now
Yeah, you do.
I can go on a shamanic adventure to cure my anxiety.
Can you go soon and just not come back? Oh, no. No, I like doing a podcast with you. But see, you clearly figured out that you could move to Iceland and I can stay here and we can still do the podcast.
I don't know if I want to move there, but I'd like to go.
Well, she said it's safe all the time. You don't even have to lock your doors.
And you can...
Why would you not want to live there?
Well, I would, if I was going to try psychedelics, I'd feel safe with you because you seem like you know what you're doing.
True statement. True statement.
I'd rather be with a professional or an expert.
That's true. Opposed to Larry down the street who seems to talk to walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
No, he doesn't really exist. He doesn't really exist. But anyway.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate that you took the time to talk to us. Yeah. And maybe we can have you on again sometime in the future.
That would be wonderful.
We can talk about something different. So maybe a different topic. Chat about that.
Maybe talk more about your travels.
There's a lot of things. Reading through your bio, there's a lot of interesting things on there.
There is.
Sure, we could touch on something else next time.
Like literally every single sentence of your bio could be probably a whole nother episode because you have lived a whole lot of life. You have lived a lot of life. And I appreciate that you lived it so I don't have to travel anywhere.
Yeah.
You've traveled enough for both of us. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, Nyxie, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Bye.